Graphene specialist Versarien has recently received its first US order. It was for 12 kilograms of high purity graphene, a moment that the chief executive Neill Ricketts says is a validation of Versarien's strategy. Additionally, the company is also focused in on China as a big opportunity, where it's signed a number of MOUs, Memorandum of Understandings. But what's this mean, and what are the chances of any of these MOUs developing into a meaningful business opportunity? Well, Neill Ricketts is the Chief Executive, Founder and largest shareholder. Neill, welcome.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Also, during the next few minutes, I want to talk as well about this book I understand you'll be handing out to investors in Versarien at the AGM in September. But before we get on to that and everything else that's going on, talk to us a little bit about this 12 kilograms of product that's been sold into America.
So this has come about during our activities in the US. We're active in about 5 or 6 different areas at the moment, which is putting a lot of pressure onto a relatively small team, but we're managing to cope with that. This is an oil and gas application out of Texas, and for me it's kind of the world going around in circles, because this is pretty much how I started my career, and this is one of the applications that really suits graphene because the product works so much better, and the reliability is improved so much more by using graphene because of its thermodynamic properties and its ability to increase stress and strain in, or the ability to be able to cope with those different pressures that you get downhole.
What's this look like? What's 12 kilograms of graphene?
12 kilos would probably fill this table. It's it's a sizable amount of material. It's so that the customer can validate their ability to be able to scale up their production. Nothing to do with Versarien. Versarien has had the tests. It's proven its tests in the initial orders, and now what we're seeing is the customer taking that material, actually putting it into their product so that they can then validate it in their testing for their product.
Yeah. So you say testing. Do you know what the future is of any potential relationship with this company?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very commercial organisation. It's absolutely about improving the performance and the reliability of what they do for their customers. It's a requirement so that we know that that this product works much better with our material in it, and therefore, moving forward, they've already given us a schedule of kind of requirements over the next 12 months, and it's a validation, as you said right at the beginning, of our business model, which is get very, very close to these partners, get these collaborations working, getting the true applications of graphene in industry, and then seeing the volumes build from a kilo. 2 years ago it would have taken us a month to produce a kilo of material. Now we can produce that 12 kilo order in a couple of days.
Yeah, and what's the future then? We don't know any price of this, do we? So we don't really know what difference this ultimately is going to make.
No, that's a question we get asked an awful lot as well. The reason that we keep the pricing confidential is because of our customers. It's also because different applications and different volumes of graphene dictate different prices. And so, we are always looking to get the best prices we can for our material, and therefore we don't want it to become a commodity material. We want it to be targeted where the true value is in the material itself. So improved performance, getting that drill string to stay downhole longer, making sure that you don't have to recover it and have the cost. That's where the real costs are in oil exploration. And it's the same with a lot of the applications that we're currently working at. These are true applications, not fashion accessories.
A lot of these applications, of course, are beyond any sort of meaningful understanding of everyday investor. I think one of the interesting things, I know you've been producing these headphones, which, or you're going to be doing it, I think, commercially at some point, which involves a graphene membrane, doesn't it? Which you say, I believe, brings about a better experience audio.
Yeah, so this was tested by one of the world's leading headphone manufacturers, and they found that when you produce headphones like this, you always have to have a bit of a compromise between the bass and the treble. And when we tested these, we actually improved both, which is kind of unheard of, and simply staggering for the engineers that are involved, because they haven't come across this. A few years ago, if you were mentioning graphene, it would have been a kind of hype product. It was going to solve everything everywhere. But now, actually, what we're seeing are true applications. And we've had these produced. These are the special edition ones, but the retail ones are available on Amazon through our partner Media Devil. And all the reviews are really positive about people that have used them. So you can get a much better sound for a lot cheaper price.
This sort of brings it into sort of the commercial world, which I think people, as I said, can maybe understand a little bit better. And for those that don't understand what's going on, I know this book is available as well at your AGMs. How does this introduce graphene? Because what does it tell us that we don't already know, those that are in the business, but for commercial purposes and what investors need to know?
So I think investors have changed. You used to put your money into a fund and you used to be relatively remote from what your investment was doing. We're seeing more and more people actually taking on board their own investment decisions. And within graphene, we're talking about quantum science. This is quite a difficult thing to understand, even for a technician or a scientist. And what we've done is we've produced a book here that enables everybody to understand exactly what we're trying to do. Now, we always have our AGMs generally in the third week in September, and we're on track to do that. And we'll be giving these books away to our investors. We're quite unusual in a company, and we try to do things slightly differently. We believe that we should take some of the mystery out of our product by giving the data in this book. But we can have up to 200 people arriving at our AGM, so they're quite busy events, and we enjoy that interaction with our shareholders.
One of the things I know that if we look at the share price, actually, we're just around about £1 at the moment. This is a share price going back to pretty much the beginning of 2018. One of the interesting things I know when information comes through is that it's difficult to interpret just what these news headlines mean. In amongst some of the headlines has been your growing relationship with a number of Chinese companies, and I know that BIGT share trade was of interest. What's going on there, and ultimately what's going to happen out of this share trade potential with China?
So our international team, Matt Walker, who's seconded from the DIT, quite an unprecedented move by the UK government to be able to promote this technology worldwide. He's focused on 5 key areas, of which China is the longest standing and the most advanced. In China, we're looking for a strategic investment to set up a wholly owned foreign entity, and that process is underway. It's quite a laborious technical process to go through, trying to set up a foreign entity in China, but our solicitors are working on that, and our legal team, and we've got Bruno and James and Matt and Chris all focused on that job in hand, and we're absolutely on track. The plan is that this strategic investment of up to 15% by the Beijing Institute of Graphene Technology will occur before the AGM. That's our kind of internal timeline. No guarantees, things happen, but that's what we're aiming for, and that's what we're on track for at the moment. BIGT is like the Chinese equivalent of our very own National Graphene Institute or Graphene Engineering Innovation Centre, where I was yesterday in Manchester. And they're a kind of beacon for everything that's happening to do with graphene in China. And so to have them on board, to have them having tested and validated our graphene against all of the domestic supply of Chinese graphene, and still be interested in helping a foreign entity, which is quite unusual in China. They very much like to have their own domestic market, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity and really does show the validation of what we've been doing. On top of the Chinese validation, we obviously have the Graphene Council's verified graphene producer, which means that we're currently the only people that can independently verify and test our materials to a standard, which is another great accolade.
Staying with China and moving on from the BIGT deal you've been talking about, these MOUs, these memorandum of understandings that you're producing, so far there's been nothing material come out of any of those, I don't think. Is that right?
Yes, so the teams in China are working through. I think they're kind of waiting for us to finalise our supply chain in China. So we're having to work on the raw materials, we're having to work on the factory layouts, the equipment specifications, not only setting up the company and making sure the investment's in place. And I think we'll see true progress in China once everybody is clear exactly what we're trying to achieve there. That's not to say that these collaborations aren't moving forward, and particularly Bruno is involved in almost day-to-day contact with our collaboration partners. They tend to be very, very big, so we're just over 100 strong. The partners that we're dealing with tend to have, up to 150, 160,000 employees. So there's quite a David and Goliath element to what we're doing. And, we're going through that process. Our processes are, you can tell I'm a manufacturing engineer. I like my processes and my systems. We like to get the inquiry, we like to get the NDA, we like to have the collaboration agreement, and then we go through a period of testing and iteration whilst we get the right solution for those customers. Some things work very, very quickly, like the oil and gas inquiry that we had, that we were just talking about, the 12-kilo order. Some things take a little bit longer if they're involving space or aircraft or automotive, but there is no doubt that this BIGT transaction will be absolutely critical in us setting up and being part of probably the biggest manufacturing setup in the world.
How long do you see it before we're seeing any sort of material benefit from these early stage relationships in China? I mean, I'm talking here about some sort of investor return. Investors are quite happy to run with a company that is loss-making and is doing some research and spreading its wings and trying to get some traction globally. But there's a certain amount of time and investors start to ask the difficult questions about when are we going to get a return?
So for us, it's all about demonstrating progress to our shareholders. So in September, when we sit down at the AGM, we'd like to have a few events before that, but definitely AGM, we will outline what we consider to be the timeline. Now, we always get criticised for saying timelines, but we think it's really, really important. We believe the directors should be accountable. We believe that the shareholders should be part of that journey. Things happen as we go along, as they do in everybody's lives, but we believe that if we have an internal target, that we demonstrate that to our shareholders as well. So to answer your question, we will lay down the steps that we believe will be taking us through to that next phase. So that's getting the strategic investment, locating the manufacturing plant, and there's a number of provinces we're talking to at the moment about getting the best deal in terms of aid, selecting the equipment, then we've got to purchase that equipment, then we've got to commission that equipment, and then we've got to get going. And China's a little bit different to the rest of the world because they will create the market. So they very in the West, we tend to create the demand first, and then we try to struggle to get the capacity. In China, they're quite happy to build the capacity and then chase the demand, or even create the demand. And so that's why it's really important for us to have these partners in China.
And at the same time, looking down the list of news headlines we've had, I see you continue to add to the board as well. I think you've got another new member recently. Are you satisfied with where you are on the board at the moment, or are you still looking for more talent?
No, we would always look for more talent. We're very cautious about who we bring into the company because we've got a slightly unusual journey compared to maybe some of the other shares that are out there. We want people that we enjoy working with, but we're always looking for talent. Currently, I'm the chairman and the CEO. That's not something that we would like to continue with. We've just got to find the right people to fill those gaps. And there's no doubt, as part of some of the strategic investments we're talking about, and other people might want to join the board as well. We're very fortunate as a company that actually more people want to join our company, and so we don't have to actively go looking that much. We've got a big list of people who want to come and assist us in the next phases of the business.
Okay, well, wish you luck, and look forward to the AGM in September. For those investors that can attend the event, down it's going to be a crowded event. You're going to have to get a bigger room.
Well, we may have to get a bigger room, yeah.
Okay, Neill, thanks so much indeed for joining us. Neill Ricketts is the Chief Executive, Founder, and currently largest shareholder of Versarien.